you're finding yourself that your aquaponics system, the pH has gotten a bit low and you're wanting to be able to increase it naturally, or better still, let's just have it buffered and stay nice and high. Well, what about doing it as naturally as possible with something like, say, eggshells? Most people have it, so let's have a look at how you can set up to have your pH nicely buffered, so nicely balanced at the right level that we want, using eggshells. How awesome is this? Check out the description to find some more information about aquaponics and how you can move forward and get this happening. Right, so we've calibrated our pH meter, which is awesome. So now I'm popping it in the sump of my aquaponics system. And it's at 6.2, which is I suspected because I have just recently done the drop test kit. Now, I'm going to be adding some oyster shells and we'll be able to see that that will increase. Okay, so I'm wanting to just show you what it is, and we'll test it in a couple of days and we'll see there's going to be a huge difference. Anytime you're adjusting your pH, you do want to do it slowly. Right, so we just had a look with the pH meter and we saw that my pH is very, very low. It was 6.2, and fish prefer it best if it is kept as close to 7 as we can. So we have a couple of options. Ooh, cat fight. Sorry, my cat's having a bit of a tiff there. A couple of options in increasing your pH. I do things as naturally as possible and as cheaply as possible. Let's face it, if we can do that. One thing that we need to be aware of is that we increase our pH, which we want to do in this case, we'll also increase our carbonate hardness. And if we're aiming to increase our carbonate hardness, that will also increase our pH. So we just need to be very, very mindful. Like, carbonate hardness is about having that buffer for the pH, so it works to balance out your pH. So we don't mind increasing that, but when we are increasing that, but we're not wanting to increase our pH, that's when we have to be a lot more aware. Carbonate hardness can be increased with things like calcium carbonate. So we have some eggshells and we have some very crushed up oystery shells in here as well. So here is a fancy little thing that I made just because I could. I think it's a 100mm PVC pipe, drilled some holes in it, holes in the base. I'm going to put the shells into pantyhose, tie that off, and then pop that down into my sump where it's going to get lots of aeration. The reason I'm putting it in the pantyhose is to make sure that we're not getting any of the shell bits coming out and into the system. I don't really want that happening. And it's the same pretty much with your eggshells. Popping them in pantyhose, and I'll pop them in here as well. It's not going to make a difference if I use the calcium from the oyster shells or the calcium from the eggshells. It's going to have the same effect. One thing that is important, if I pop the whole eggshell in like this, now I have microwaved these for like 30 seconds, actually it was a minute. We wanted to make sure we get rid of any salmonella or any of the nasties that are in the eggshells. So you can pop it in the oven and do the same thing. You just don't want to burn it, okay? So we want it brittle, but not burnt, not black. So a minute in the microwave worked really, really well. By adding the eggshells or the oyster shells, or any type of shell really, you can use like things like cuttlefish. I can't think of seashells, as long as you're not taking them off the sea, don't ruin the ecosystem that way. But it also provides the calcium that your plants need. Now, plants need calcium, okay, so this is one way of being able to do both. And there's plenty of ways to increase your pH, but this is just one. Okay, so as far as the eggshells are concerned, it's as simple as crushing it up. The smaller I crush it up, the quicker it's going to be able to be used. So keep that in mind. So I don't want to pop the whole eggshell in. There, crushing it up after it's been cooked. And that then makes it a lot easier for it to break down and be used. And actually these are seashells. These are tiny little seashells that we used. I got them from, I got this lot from, I think, the local aquarium store actually, where they sell shell grit. This is what this is called, shell grit for birds. I ran out of oyster shells, that's where I used to last on my aquarium. Completely forgot. So these I did crush up a little bit, just to make it a bit easier to use. And it's all a bit damp. So it's literally popping it in there. As I said, the pantyhose just makes it that little bit easier of keeping it all together, because as you see, these are so small they will fall through. It's as simple as that, and then popping that into your aquaponics system somehow, somewhere, and then keeping an eye on the pH. It should balance itself out and then maintain that until these have been dissolved. That's how it works, generally speaking, but there are always the exceptions to the rules. Okay, so I'm going to pause this, finish filling all of this up, and then pop it in and show you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm putting videos up every couple of days, so make sure that you hit subscribe so you can get all of them. Alright, so straight over into the aquaponics system. Now, I've just literally decided to dangle it into the water. It's just attached here, and the same with the shell grit one. You can see I've got one of the air stones pretty much underneath that, so it's going to be able to get out a lot of that calcium bicarbonate happening, which will be good because the plants are needing it. I decided against the PVC piping. It's something that I usually do, and in all honesty, I'm fairly convinced that the shell grit especially is going to fall through that eventually, because it's not very strong. But the eggshell one, because that's very, very light, I don't see any form of problem happening there, but I am convinced I'm going to need to put up the PVC pipe in there, just because I'm pretty sure that that's just not strong enough to last any length of time, and we wanted things to be able to last. So we'll check back in a few days and test the pH, hey? Alrighty, we're back in the sump, and we've got the eggshells in there, and just so you know, I do also have the shell grit in there, but we're testing the pH. It's been a couple of days. Nicely calibrated. And the pH was at 6.2, if memory serves. And it has increased up to 6.7. Hopefully you can see that without flashing the camera. Yeah, it's sitting at 6.7. So, in saying that though, I tested it yesterday and it was 6.9, so it is fluctuating a tiny little bit, but it's a lot better than what it was at 6.2. So, awesome.